July 4th, 2022, 11:23 p.m., Donetsk Oblast, eastern Ukraine. A Russian ammunition depot, hidden in a warehouse complex 70 kilometers behind the front line, held enough artillery shells to sustain Russian bombardment for 2 weeks. Guards patrolled the perimeter. Air defense systems protected the sky. Russian commanders believed their supplies were safe. At 11:23 p.m., 6 GMLRS rockets, each carrying a 200-pound high-explosive warhead, struck the depot simultaneously. Launched from an M142 HIMARS system 68 kilometers away, the rockets arrived with GPS-guided precision. Each struck within 5 meters of its aim point. The ammunition depot erupted. Secondary explosions continued for 6 hours. Flames visible for 30 kilometers. When dawn came, the warehouse complex was gone. 40,000 artillery shells destroyed. 2 weeks of Russian firepower erased in 2 minutes. This is MilFront, where we analyze the weapons that change wars. Because HIMARS didn't just destroy Russian ammunition, it revolutionized how Ukraine fights. In July 2022, Ukraine received its first 4 M142 HIMARS systems from the United States. By July 31st, those 4 systems, joined by 4 more, had conducted over 100 strikes. They destroyed 50-plus ammunition depots, dozens of command posts, and critical bridges. They forced Russia to relocate supplies 90 kilometers behind front lines. They cut Russian artillery fire rates by 75% in some sectors. This is the story of how 8 trucks with rocket launchers rewrote the rules of artillery warfare. Subscribe now. You need to see how HIMARS changed everything. The M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System represents a revolution in precision fires. Mounted on a 6x6 truck chassis, the system is air transportable, highly mobile, and devastatingly accurate. The basic specifications are straightforward. The truck weighs 16 tons, can travel at 85 kilometers per hour on roads, and has a range of 480 kilometers on a tank of fuel. The launcher holds 6 rockets, or 1 Army Tactical Missile System missile. The crew consists of 3 soldiers: driver, gunner, and section chief. The weapon's true power lies in its munitions and tactics. The M31 GMLRS rocket, guided multiple launch rocket system, measures 3.9 meters long and weighs 306 kilograms. Its solid rocket motor provides a range of 70 kilometers. The warhead carries 91 kilograms of high explosive with preformed fragmentation. The guidance system combines GPS and inertial navigation, achieving accuracy within 5 meters. This precision is revolutionary. Traditional artillery scatters shells across an area. HIMARS strikes a point. A single rocket can destroy a building, ammunition stack, or vehicle. Where Soviet-era systems required dozens of shells to saturate a target area, HIMARS needs 6 precisely placed rockets. The shoot-and-scoot capability defines HIMARS tactics. The entire engagement, from receiving targeting data to firing 6 rockets and relocating, takes under 10 minutes. Receive coordinates: 4 minutes to position and confirm firing solution, 2 minutes to launch 6 rockets, 4 minutes to drive 10 kilometers away. By the time Russian counter-battery radar calculates HIMARS firing position and directs counter-fire, the launcher is gone. Shells land on empty ground. Ukraine's first 4 HIMARS arrived in late June 2022. Ukrainian crews, trained at U.S. Army facilities in Germany, returned with their systems ready to fight. The initial plan was cautious: target high-value sites, minimize risk, prove the system's effectiveness. Ukrainian commanders had other ideas. They understood HIMARS could change the war, and they used it aggressively. On July 1, 2022, the first HIMARS strike hit a Russian ammunition depot near Izium in Kharkiv Oblast. The depot, located in an industrial complex, held an estimated 20,000 artillery shells. 6 rockets struck in rapid succession. The depot exploded. Secondary detonations continued for 4 hours. Russian artillery units dependent on that depot ran short of ammunition within 48 hours. On July 2nd, another ammunition depot near Shakhtarsk in Donetsk Oblast was hit. Again, 6 rockets. Again, total destruction. On July 3rd, a command post near Kadivka was struck, killing an estimated 40 Russian soldiers and destroying communications equipment. On July 4th, the strike described at the beginning. Another ammunition depot. Another 40,000 shells destroyed. This was a pattern. Ukrainian intelligence, combining satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and partisans behind Russian lines, identified targets. HIMARS struck at night when Russian forces couldn't respond effectively. Ammunition depots burned. Command posts collapsed. The psychological effect was immediate. Russian soldiers, accustomed to superior artillery support, watched their ammunition disappear. Officers couldn't explain how Ukrainian forces were striking targets 70 kilometers behind the front. Morale collapsed. At the same time, Ukrainian forces noted a sharp decline in Russian artillery fire. Before HIMARS, Russian forces fired an estimated 40,000 to 60,000 shells per day across all fronts. By late July, that rate had dropped to 10,000 to 15,000 shells per day, a 75% reduction. HIMARS hadn't destroyed Russian artillery guns. It had destroyed their ammunition. And without ammunition, guns are useless. The Russian response was desperate. They attempted to disperse ammunition stocks, storing smaller quantities at more locations. This reduced efficiency. More trucks, more time, more vulnerability. They attempted to position ammunition depots beyond 90 kilometers from the front line. This increased transportation time and fuel costs. They attempted to shoot down HIMARS rockets with air defense systems, but the rockets, small and fast, were difficult targets. Intercept rates remained low. None of these measures stopped HIMARS. Which HIMARS target had the greatest impact? A. Ammunition depots. B. Command posts. C. Bridges. Comment your answer. By mid-July, Ukraine had received 4 additional HIMARS, bringing the total to 8. The pace of strikes increased. July 11th, Antonivka Bridge near Kherson struck. The bridge, critical for Russian logistics supporting forces west of the Dnipro River, was rendered unusable. Russian forces struggled to resupply units across the river. July 14th, ammunition depot near Alkevsk destroyed. Estimated 30,000 shells lost. July 16th, command post near Novokakhovka struck. Casualties unknown, but Russian operations in the sector paused for 48 hours. July 20th, another ammunition depot near Krasnodon. July 23rd, Derivka Bridge near Kherson struck, further isolating Russian forces. July 25th, ammunition depot near Bryanka. The strikes continued relentlessly. By July 31st, Ukrainian forces claimed over 100 HIMARS strikes. Independent analysis confirmed at least 50 ammunition depots destroyed. The financial cost to Russia was staggering. Each artillery shell costs Russia approximately $800 to produce. Destroying 40,000 shells means $32 million in direct losses per depot. 50 depots equals $1.6 billion in ammunition alone. Add the cost of destroyed warehouses, vehicles, and personnel, and the total exceeds $2 billion for 1 month of HIMARS operations. The strategic impact was even greater. Russian artillery, the backbone of their offensive operations, was neutered. Without sustained fire support, Russian ground advances stalled. Infantry assaults without artillery preparation suffered catastrophic casualties. Ukrainian forces, facing reduced Russian fire, maneuvered more freely. The tactical lessons were profound. HIMARS demonstrated that precision fires could achieve strategic effects. Traditional artillery requires volume. Fire thousands of shells to destroy a target. HIMARS requires precision. Fire 6 rockets to destroy a depot that held thousands of shells. The return on investment is extraordinary. HIMARS also validated the shoot-and-scoot doctrine. Russian counter-battery systems, sophisticated and effective against static artillery, couldn't catch HIMARS. The system's mobility made it nearly invulnerable. Russian forces claimed to have destroyed several HIMARS. Ukraine denied these claims. Independent analysis found no evidence of any HIMARS lost to enemy action in July 2022. The system's survivability was near perfect. The operational tempo shocked Russian commanders. 8 HIMARS, conducting 100-plus strikes in 31 days, achieved effects that would normally require hundreds of artillery pieces. The force multiplier effect was undeniable. For Ukraine, HIMARS became a symbol of Western support, a symbol of technological superiority, a symbol that Ukraine could fight and win. Morale among Ukrainian forces surged. Civilians celebrated each strike with online posts showing Russian ammunition depots burning. For Russia, HIMARS became a nightmare, a weapon they couldn't stop, a threat they couldn't counter, a demonstration that Ukraine's Western partners provided game-changing capabilities. The propaganda value was significant. Russian state media initially ignored HIMARS strikes. Then, as the effects became undeniable, they acknowledged the threat while exaggerating Russian countermeasures. Claims of HIMARS destroyed, contradicted by evidence. Claims of intercepted rockets, contradicted by successful strikes. The lies couldn't hide reality. HIMARS was changing the war. By August 2022, Ukraine received additional HIMARS systems, eventually fielding approximately 20 by year's end. Each system added to Ukraine's capacity to strike deep behind Russian lines. The July 2022 campaign set the template. Identify high-value targets, strike with precision, destroy Russian logistics, force adaptation, repeat. The pattern continued for months. HIMARS strikes on ammunition depots, command posts, troop concentrations, and bridges degraded Russian offensive capability. The weapon system became central to Ukraine's strategy, not just a tool, but a foundation. The engineering behind HIMARS reflected decades of U.S. Army Doctrine development. The system was designed for NATO's Cold War mission: strike Soviet second echelon forces before they reached the front line, destroy supply depots, command posts, and reinforcements, use mobility to survive Soviet counterfire. The doctrine translated perfectly to Ukraine's needs. Strike Russian logistics before supplies reach the front. Destroy command posts to disrupt coordination. Use mobility to survive counter-battery fire. HIMARS was designed for this war 40 years before it started. The success of HIMARS in July 2022 influenced U.S. policy. Initially, the United States provided only 4 systems, worried about escalation. After observing Ukrainian success and responsible use, the U.S. committed to providing more. Other nations followed. The United Kingdom provided M270 MilFront, a tracked variant carrying 12 rockets. Germany provided Mars 2 systems. France provided LRU systems. By late 2022, Ukraine fielded dozens of Western precision rocket systems, all based on the HIMARS model: strike deep, strike precisely, strike often. The July campaign also influenced Russian strategy. Unable to stop HIMARS, Russia began relocating critical facilities beyond 90 kilometers from front lines. This increased logistics costs and reduced operational efficiency. Russia dispersed ammunition stocks, creating more targets, but reducing individual target value. Russia increased air defense coverage, diverting resources from frontline support. Every Russian adaptation imposed costs. Longer supply lines meant more fuel consumption. Dispersed ammunition meant more transport trucks. Additional air defense meant fewer systems supporting ground forces. HIMARS forced Russia into a logistics spiral. More effort to deliver less support to frontline units. Here on MilFront, we analyze not just what weapons do, but why they matter. HIMARS mattered because it struck Russian logistics at a rate Russia couldn't sustain. 8 systems conducting 100 strikes destroyed resources Russia spent months accumulating. This is asymmetric warfare. This is how Ukraine, the smaller force, imposes unsustainable costs on Russia. How many HIMARS did Ukraine receive in July 2022? A. 4, B. 8, C. 12. Answer at end. The tactical evolution of HIMARS use continued beyond July. Ukrainian forces learned to maximize effectiveness through better targeting and coordination. Intelligence gathering improved. Ukrainian forces combined satellite imagery from Western partners, signals intelligence from electronic warfare units, and human intelligence from partisans operating behind Russian lines. This multi-source approach identified targets with high confidence. Strike planning became more sophisticated. Ukrainian commanders prioritized targets based on strategic impact. Ammunition depots feeding active offensives. Command posts coordinating operations. Bridges enabling logistics. Each strike was calculated for maximum effect. Coordination with other assets improved. HIMARS strikes were integrated with artillery barrages, drone strikes, and ground maneuvers. HIMARS would destroy a command post. Artillery would hit confused Russian units. Drones would assess damage and identify follow-up targets. Ground forces would exploit the chaos. This combined arms approach multiplied HIMARS' impact. The myth of HIMARS' invulnerability had limits. While no systems were lost in July, Russian forces eventually adapted. By late 2022, Russia improved counter-battery capabilities. They positioned air defense closer to potential HIMARS launch sites. They increased air reconnaissance to locate launchers. Ukrainian forces lost a small number of HIMARS-type systems, though exact figures remain classified. But even with losses, the system remained highly survivable. Ukrainian crews refined shoot and scoot tactics. Launch times decreased. Repositioning distances increased. Some crews fired from concealed positions, then drove 20 kilometers before Russian counterfire arrived. The arms race between HIMARS mobility and Russian counter-battery effectiveness tilted toward Ukraine. Russian forces never achieved reliable HIMARS kill chains. The July 2022 HIMARS campaign demonstrated a broader lesson. Precision weapons, combined with accurate intelligence and mobile platforms, can achieve strategic effects with minimal resources. 8 trucks, 100 rockets per month, degraded Russian artillery across an entire theater. This efficiency is the future of warfare. Traditional mass artillery requires thousands of tubes, millions of shells, and vast logistics networks. Precision rocket systems require dozens of launchers, thousands of rockets, and modest logistics. The cost, manpower, and sustainability advantages favor precision. Russia attempted to develop similar capabilities. Their Tornado-S system, theoretically comparable to HIMARS, saw limited deployment and achieved minimal success. Poor GPS accuracy, unreliable rockets, limited production. Russia's defense industry couldn't match Western precision guidance technology. The July 2022 HIMARS revolution wasn't just military, it was industrial. Western industrial capacity, producing precision guidance systems at scale, gave Ukraine a capability Russia couldn't counter or replicate. This industrial advantage proved as important as tactical superiority. The long-term strategic impact of HIMARS extended into 2023 and 2024. Russian forces, burned by HIMARS strikes in 2022, permanently altered their logistics doctrine. Ammunition depots stayed 90-plus kilometers from front lines. Command posts operated from dispersed, hardened facilities. Bridges were repaired under air defense umbrellas. These adaptations reduced HIMARS' effectiveness, but imposed enormous costs on Russian operations. Ukraine's lesson was clear. High-tech Western weapons, properly employed, provided decisive advantages. This encouraged Ukraine to push for additional advanced systems: ATACMS long-range missiles, F-16 fighters, Patriot air defense, each capability built on HIMARS' proven success. Western partners' lesson was equally clear. Ukraine could absorb and effectively employ advanced systems. This confidence drove expanded military aid packages throughout 2023. The answer? B. 8. Ukraine received its first 4 HIMARS in late June 2022, followed by 4 more in mid-July, totaling 8 systems by month's end. Those 8 systems conducted over 100 strikes, destroyed 50-plus ammunition depots, and fundamentally altered the war's dynamics. 8 trucks, 8 launchers, changed the war. Think about that. Russia, with thousands of artillery pieces and millions of shells, was neutered by 8 mobile rocket systems. Why? Because precision beats volume. Because mobility beats static defense. Because intelligence-driven strikes beat random bombardment. This is the future of warfare. Not massed artillery duels, not grinding attritional combat, but precise, mobile, intelligence-guided strikes that destroy enemy logistics faster than they can regenerate. HIMARS proved the concept, and Ukraine mastered the execution. Was HIMARS the most important weapon Ukraine received? Could Russia have countered HIMARS effectively? What's the next game-changing weapon system? Comment below. And if you believe precision defeats mass, type MilFront in the comments. Your engagement spreads this analysis to military professionals and enthusiasts worldwide. Subscribe to MilFront because we show you how wars are won, one precise strike at a time. The HIMARS revolution didn't end in July 2022, but it started there, and warfare will never be the same. Stay vigilant.